In the suffocating silence of my locked bedroom, I huddle against the far wall, phone clutched like a lifeline. The police are coming. Sirens wail faintly in the distance. But will they arrive before it does? That thing, with its impossibly long, pale fingers slithering under the door like seeking tendrils, tapping, tapping, as if politely knocking to be let in. My brother's screams still echo in my mind, cut short by a sickening crack. Whatever followed him home from that desert crash is here now, hungry for a new host. And I've just locked it inside with me. I don't know how long I can hold out. My fingers fly across the keyboard, desperate to capture every detail before it's too late. The air in my room feels thick, charged with an unnatural stillness that presses against my skin. Outside my door, the scratching has paused, but I know it's not gone. It's waiting, listening, just like it has been for months, hidden in the shadows of this cursed house. It all began 3 months ago, when my world crumbled in a way that felt scripted for some tragic film. I was let go from my job, a corporate drone position that paid the bills but drained my soul. Then, as if fate decided to pile on, a string of foolish choices and sheer bad luck led to eviction from my apartment. The notice on the door was the final blow, leaving me staring at my possessions. 3 battered cardboard boxes stuffed with clothes, books, and remnants of a life I thought was stable, plus a worn duffel bag slung over my shoulder. Homeless, broke, and isolated. My parents had passed years earlier, and my friends were either too far away or too buried in their own messes to offer more than sympathetic texts. There was only one lifeline left, my younger brother, Ethan. We'd always been tight, our bond forged stronger in the fire of losing Mom and Dad. He was the dreamer, the one who needed protecting, while I played the role of the responsible older sibling. Now, here I was, hat in hand, reversing those roles. Ethan lived in a modest 2-bedroom rental on the outskirts of town, where the pavement gave way to dense, whispering woods. The place was a steal, but I soon understood why. Isolated, creaky, with an aura of neglect that matched the overgrown yard. He welcomed me with open arms, no questions asked. "Mi casa es su casa, bro," he said with that lopsided grin, helping me haul my boxes into the spare room. But as I unpacked, I couldn't shake the irony gnawing at me. I was supposed to be the anchor for him, not the dead weight dragging him down. Swallowing my pride was like choking on shards of glass, but gratitude won out. For now. I knew Ethan had his demons. He'd never fully recovered from that accident 5 years back. He was 22 then, fresh out of college and embarking on a solo road trip across the country to discover himself, as he put it. Somewhere in the barren heart of the desert, exhaustion claimed him. He dozed at the wheel, and the car veered off the highway, tumbling end over end in a cacophony of twisting metal and shattering glass. By all rights, he should have died out there, alone under the relentless sun. The first few weeks after I moved in felt almost normal, or as normal as life could be when you're sleeping in a spare room that still smelled faintly of old paint and loneliness. Ethan kept his part-time gig shelving books at the town library, coming home with that quiet, tired smile that never quite reached his eyes anymore. I threw myself into job applications, sending out resumes like messages in bottles, hoping one would wash up on a shore that paid rent. The house itself was a constant low-grade discomfort. Because of that bedroom window Ethan refused to close, winter drafts snaked through every crack and corner. Mornings greeted me with visible breath in the hallway, frost spiderwebbing across the inside of the kitchen windows. I'd wrap myself in every hoodie I owned, cradle coffee mugs like life preservers, and try not to complain too loudly. Ethan would just shrug, shoulders hunched inside his oversized sweater. "I need it open," he'd say, voice flat. "If it's closed, I can't." I just can't breathe right. I chalked it up to leftover trauma. The accident had carved deep grooves in him, claustrophobia so severe he avoided elevators, crowded buses, even movie theaters on opening night. Panic attacks came without warning, chest heaving, eyes wild, hands clawing at invisible restraints. So an open window? It seemed harmless. A psychological safety valve, an escape hatch he could see even in sleep. I let it slide. Bought thermal socks, layered blankets until I could barely move, told myself it was temporary. Once I landed a job, I'd find my own place. Until then, I was a guest. His guest. Then the nightmares grew teeth. At first, they were just sounds through the thin wall separating our rooms, muffled whimpers, the rustle of sheets as he thrashed. I'd lie awake listening, heart thudding in sympathy. Some nights he'd cry out single broken words. No. Stay back. Don't come closer. I'd knock softly on the wall. He'd go quiet for a while. Then the cycle would repeat. One night the words came clearer, sharper, slicing through the dark like broken glass. It's in the trees again, the tall man. My skin prickled. I sat up, sheets pooling around my waist, straining to hear more. Nothing. Just the low moan of wind through the open window and the distant hoot of an owl somewhere deep in the woods. The next morning I found him at the kitchen table, staring into black coffee, knuckles white around the mug. "You okay?" I asked, keeping my tone casual. He flinched, then forced a smile that looked painful. "Yeah, just dreams." "About the tall man?" His eyes flicked to mine, wide, haunted, then dropped to the table. "It's nothing. Old nightmare. Same one since the crash." He wouldn't say more. Wouldn't look at me again that morning. Around the same time, the small mean tricks began. My keys disappeared from the ceramic bowl by the front door. We searched everywhere. Under couches, in coat pockets, behind the fridge. 3 days later, I opened the freezer for ice, and there they were, glittering coldly between frozen peas and an ancient pack of ground beef. I laughed, uneasy. "Guess I'm losing it," I said. Ethan just stared at the keys like they might bite him, then turned away, without a word. Next, the TV remote vanished from the coffee table and reappeared balanced on top of the bathroom medicine cabinet. Impossibly high, unless someone had stood on a chair. Ethan's library card turned up inside my left sneaker one morning, tucked neatly against the insole like it belonged there. We blamed each other at first. "You're messing with me," I accused once, half joking. He shook his head, pale. "I'm not. I swear I'm not." The laughter died between us. Then came the scratching. It started faint, almost easy to dismiss, dry rustling inside the walls like leaves caught in a vent. I set out mousetraps in the attic and crawl space. Nothing. No droppings, no chewed wires, no tiny corpses. The sound kept coming back, always around 3 in the morning, patient and deliberate. A single slow drag of something sharp across drywall. Scrape. Pause. Scrape. It would travel. Living room wall to hallway to ceiling above my bed, as though whatever made it was circling, searching, learning the shape of the house. Ethan claimed he never heard it. "Just the wind," he'd mutter, eyes fixed on the floor. But I saw the way his hands trembled when the sound started. I knew he was lying. The dirt was worse. Because the window stayed open day and night, the woods kept sending pieces of themselves inside. Dead leaves, twigs, fine black soil, pine needles. Every morning, a small drift collected beneath the sill. Ethan's ritual was to sweep it up before breakfast, silent and methodical. One gray dawn, I passed his room on my way to the kitchen and froze. The debris wasn't scattered. It had been arranged. A perfect spiral coiled outward from the center of the floor, leaves and grit forming tight, even loops like an ancient sand mandala. Too precise for wind, too intentional for accident. I stood there, coffee forgotten, stomach turning slow and cold. When Ethan emerged from the bathroom, towel around his neck, he saw me staring. He didn't flinch, just sighed, a long, bone-deep sound, and fetched the dustpan. Swept the pattern away without comment, without surprise. I watched him do it again a week later, and again after that. Different designs each time, interlocking webs, jagged starbursts, once a long, thin silhouette that looked disturbingly like a stick figure with arms stretched far too wide. Always on the windiest nights. Always swept away before I could photograph it. I told myself it was air currents, strange eddies created by the open window and the house's layout. Physics playing tricks. But deep down, dread had taken root. Something was wrong here. Something older and hungrier than mice or bad dreams. And every night, through that open rectangle of darkness, the woods watched us back. My frustration built like pressure behind a dam. The cold had seeped so deep into my bones I could feel it even under 3 layers of clothing. Sleep became a battlefield. Every night interrupted by that slow, deliberate scratching moving through the walls like a predator mapping its territory. Job rejections piled up in my inbox. Ethan grew quieter, more withdrawn, his eyes ringed with permanent shadows. The house itself seemed to lean in, listening. I started noticing things I couldn't explain away anymore. One evening, I came home from a rare in-person interview to find the living room lights off. Ethan sat cross-legged on the floor in front of his bedroom door, staring at the open window across the hall. Moonlight spilled in, silver and cold, painting his face in stark contrasts. He didn't move when I spoke his name. Just whispered, so softly I almost missed it. "It's closer tonight." I knelt beside him. "What is?" He shook his head. Tears tracked silently down his cheeks. For the first time since the accident, he looked small again, like the kid I used to shield from bullies on the playground. "I thought keeping the window open would be enough," he said. "I thought if it could come and go, it would leave me alone eventually. But it's getting hungrier. It wants more than just to watch." My stomach twisted. "Ethan, you're scaring me. Talk to me. Really talk." He finally met my eyes. "You remember the desert? The man who found me?" I nodded. He wasn't a hallucination. I lied to the doctors because they wouldn't believe me. He saved my life. But he tied something to me. Something that was already circling the wreck, drawn by the blood and the fear. He said it would follow me home, that I'd never be alone again. The open window. It's the only way it can leave my head for a little while. If it stays trapped too long, his voice cracked. It starts looking for another way out. I wanted to argue, to tell him it was trauma, PTSD, sleep paralysis, anything rational. But the words stuck in my throat. Because part of me had felt it too. That sense of being observed, even in daylight. That prickling at the back of my neck when I passed his open window at night. Instead, I asked the only question that mattered. "What happens if I close it?" His laugh was bitter, hollow. "Don't. Please. Just don't." I promised I wouldn't, but promises break under enough pressure. Yesterday morning, the final thread snapped. I woke to silence. No scratching, no wind howling through the gap, just an eerie stillness. When I passed Ethan's room, the floor beneath his window was covered in a new design. Not a spiral this time, not a web. A tall, impossibly elongated figure rendered in black soil and pine needles, arms stretched outward like wings, or claws. The head was just a smudge, featureless except for 2 deep gouges where eyes should be. It faced the bed. My brother was still asleep, curled tight under the blankets, face slick with sweat even in the frigid air. He looked like he was fighting something even in his dreams. Rage boiled up so fast it blinded me. All the cold nights, the lost sleep, the creeping dread, the way this house had turned against us. It crystallized into one irrational, burning certainty. That window was the wound. Close the wound, and the infection stops. I waited until Ethan left for his shift at the library. The house felt unnaturally quiet without him. I walked into his room. The smell hit me first. Damp earth, rotting vegetation, something faintly metallic underneath. The trees outside stood motionless, branches like skeletal fingers against the slate-gray sky. My hands shook as I gripped the window frame. Ice coated the metal track. I shoved downward with all my strength. The sash resisted for a second, almost like it was fighting me, then slammed shut with a satisfying crack that echoed through the empty house. I twisted the lock. Click. Then I yanked the heavy blackout curtain across, severing the last thread of outside light. The room changed instantly. The wild, breathing presence of the woods vanished. Warmth began to creep back in, hesitant at first, then bolder. I stood there breathing the still air, feeling, for one glorious moment, like I'd finally taken control. When Ethan came home that night, he said nothing about the window. We ordered pizza, watched a mindless action movie, laughed at the bad CGI. The house was warm. For the first time in months, it felt like a home instead of a mausoleum. When he went to bed, he just murmured, "Good night," and closed his door. The curtain stayed drawn. He didn't check. I went to sleep smug, victorious, almost happy. Until the screaming started. It tore through the house like a living thing. Raw, animal terror, mixed with something much worse. Recognition. I bolted upright, heart slamming against my ribs. The clock read 2:47 a.m. I ran to his door. Locked. "Ethan! Open up!" Sobs now, choking and wet. I can't breathe. "Oh God, what did you do?" "Open the door." "You closed it." His voice cracked into a wail. "You closed the fucking window." I pounded harder. "It was freezing. You were killing us both with that thing open." A hollow, gurgling laugh answered me, the most terrifying sound I'd ever heard from another human being. "Killing us? It wasn't for me, you idiot. It was for it. So it could leave. So it wouldn't turn on me." My blood turned to ice water. "What are you talking about?" "The tall man. The price. He told me I'd never come home alone. It's been living in my nightmares, watching through the window, using it like a door. When the window's open, it can slip out, stretch its legs, feed on the night air, and then come back. But you locked it in. With me. In a sealed room." A violent crash shook the door. He must have thrown himself against it. Wood groaned.